Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, it's Friday, and it's time for another podcast. We're bringing it to you every single week. No other Volkswagen podcast is delivering the goods like Let's Talk Dubs. And I know that's why you guys listen, and I appreciate you guys for listening. Make sure you guys share the podcast with all your friends so that we continue to grow exponentially from an organic basis of the listeners promoting their favorite Volkswagen podcast. So make sure you guys do that. As a favor to me, if you ever thought, what can I do for Bill T? He puts so much work in this podcast. You could share this podcast. So I would love to see everybody on their social platforms share this podcast. Do me that favor so that lots of other people can get I know you guys are greedy. You're like, I don't want nobody else listening to Let's Talk Dubs with me. No, it's for all of us, guys. So I want you guys, make sure you post it on your social feeds this weekend. I want to see some love out there, see some people. Tag me in it. Tag Let's Talk Dubs. Tag One Crazy Weekend. Speaking of One Crazy Weekend, man, we're about 12 weeks away from Let's Talk Dubs One Crazy Weekend. Make sure you guys get out there and go to letstalkdubs.com. Register for the event. Register for the car show and the poker run. That registration fee will get you parked upstairs, top of the parking garage with all the happenings that's going on. We've got on Friday, well, back it up. We've got on Thursday, we've got our poker tournament sponsored by VW Trends Magazine. And then on Friday, we've got bowling tournament put on by Ross Wolf. And then Friday evening, we have the world famous strip cruise. And then Saturday morning, we have the car show. And after Saturday morning's car show, a little break in between. And then we have the world famous poker run. We give away a couple $1,000s in cash. Now, also, there's this year for Best of Show, not only do you get a custom made billet award that's built by Buddy Hale at Type 1 Restoration for Best of Show, but you also get to win $1,000 cash money, $1,000 cash prize for Best of Show. So if you think you got what it takes to take Best of Show, head on down here to One Crazy Weekend, October 2nd through the 4th, the Orleans Hotel and Casino. For more information, go to letstalkdubs.com. And if you appreciate everything that happens here at Let's Talk Dubs, from all the content every week, bro, bang, bang. No one's doing it every week. So now if you appreciate that, make sure you support those who support Let's Talk Dubs. Most importantly, VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people. Dan's out and about all over the U.S., hitting up all the car shows, hither and thither, back and forth, all over the place. If you see him at a car show, check him out. That's Dan with VW Trends Magazine. To go subscribe today at VWTrendsMagazine.com. Also, Ross Wolf, high-quality aftermarket parts. Made for enthusiasts, by enthusiasts. Check them out today at rosswolf.com. Some of my favorite parts and pieces, the things I actually run on my car, are the shift couplers, the locking dipstick tube, the Viton gasket set, also the magnetic drain plug. So, guys, they've got tons of cool stuff on their website. You know, cutting edge technology like the Viton seals. We've already explained to you what the Viton seals do. Go get you some Viton seals, so your motor stops dripping and drabbing all over the driveway at home, and you stop getting yelled at by the old lady. Also, velocity stacks, all kinds of cool stuff, man. There's a ton of cool things. They've got their new cloth braided plug wire sets that you guys can get. So make sure you guys go check them out today at rosswolf.com. Icon pistons. You guys want top quality, high performance pistons. There's only one piston to go with, and that's Icon pistons. Currently, they're made in 85.5, 92s, and 94s, 3 different pin heights. Go check them out. Where are you going to buy Icon pistons at? Well, I'm going to tell you that in just a minute, but first, let me pump up the pistons a little bit. These are made from 4032 alloy, which allows you to run tighter piston-to-wall clearances, so you can get down, keep that compression, and make that motor put out maximum power. They've got 2 1.5 millimeter top rings and then a 4 millimeter bottom ring, which makes getting new rings for these things a lot easier. And also, each piston gets M42 skirt coating to protect against dry startups, as well as give an extra layer of protection. The skirt profile is optimized for stability and performance in boxer engines. And how would these guys know? Because these guys make millions of pistons every year. And now the Big Boy Piston Company put out a line because there's a VW dude that snuck in through the back door and said, hey, boss, let's make some Volkswagen pistons. So the highest performance pistons that you can get right now, Icon pistons. Go get them checked out today. Where can you buy these Icon pistons? Type E Motorsports, CB Performance, RevMaster, the Dub Shop, and Churco Performance. So go check it out today. You want the best pistons? Make sure you only get Icon pistons. Okay, so a quick announcement real quick. You guys may remember Carson and Max. We did a podcast with a couple that was driving their bus with their little baby girl all over Australia, all through the backwoods and all through the desert and all that kind of stuff, just doing like kind of living out of their van. Anyway, they've got a short film coming out, and it's going to be a 20-minute feature film, and it's professionally filmed and created for a film festival in Australia somewhere, and we're going to have them on the podcast here soon, just to kind of talk about what it is and have you guys go check it out and see if you guys can vote for it. So at least we can push some of those VWs to the top of the list for some of these off-road film adventure movies. So it's a 20-minute movie. It's going to be called One Shot. I'll put a link down below to their link as far as what it is to check it out and how you guys can vote for those guys. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Also, there's been a lot happening here, the podcast. Looks like there's going to be a change of plans. Won't be headed to Viva Skeg Vegas, but I will be at the Air Mighty show this year. But instead of Skeg Vegas, contemplating headed to the Great Canadian VW show. So any of my Canadian listeners on the Vancouver, BC side, let's talk about it. Let me know what it's all about. Check it out, because I'll probably tow Zorba up there and then bring Zorba out to the Great Canadian VW show. So I'm excited for that. I've seen lots about it over the past few years, and I've wanted to kind of go check it out and support that event. And now this, with the change of events, it was the same weekend as the time I was going to be in Viva Skeg Vegas, but now with everything kind of taking a turn here, I'm probably going to end up going to that event. So if you guys know about it, let me know. Shoot me a DM or a private message. Let me know all about it, because I think there's more than just the car show on Sunday. I think there's something that happens Friday night, something that happens on Saturday. So looking for more details on that. But lots of other events coming up this year. If you've got an event you want to have promoted, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and it's the best way to get it to me. And then I'll be able to help you guys promote any of those events out and about in the surrounding areas. Well, speaking of promotional events, there's the US 131 Eurofest that's happening in Michigan, and the show's got a drag race, swap meet, car show, and started as a local air-cooled and has expanded to all Euro cars. So 2025 is the 19th year of the event, and if you guys are looking to check that out, I'll put a link in the description below in the podcast. If you're up in that Michigan area, make sure you guys go check this out. It's the US 131 Eurofest in Michigan. So I need you guys to go make sure you check out that event. And Bren sent me a message on this, and I met him at the Corey Mack VW drag race. So go check that out. It's going to be taking place in Martin, Michigan, and that's going to take place 10 days from now on July 20th. That's right. The event's taking place on Sunday, July 20th in Martin, Michigan. That's going to be the US 131 Eurofest in Michigan. So if you guys are up in that area, make sure you let them know Let's Talk Dubs, let you know all about it. So go check it out. Well, now's the time for the goods. So on this week's podcast, we've got Rick Wright with Wright Gearbox. You may be familiar with some of his cars that have been featured in the magazine, also his Trandy Rebuild article that he did in Hot VW's magazine. Or if you've been out in the sand dunes, you may have seen several of his cars out there, Glamis. So he's been big in the off-road scene, big in the VW scene, and his family started back in the 70s with his dad's shop, which was Rick's custom VWs. So he cut his teeth on restoring and building Volkswagens, and it's definitely something. It's a really cool story. We get a lot of technical information about transaxles on this one. We go through some gear breakdowns, and I'm sure a lot of it will be helpful to you guys. He's also got a super rad double cab. I don't know if you guys have seen that at all, but I'll put a little blurb on that with respect to the podcast that's coming out. So you guys will see that on my Instagram or Facebook page with the double cab he just built, which is wild. 2332, full airbag suspension, EFI, built to run, super tall gears, and that's what we talk about, some of the super tall gears that we have in some of our cars. So if you guys are interested in getting that gear figured out for your Volkswagen, this is the podcast. So this week, Rick Wright Jr. with Wright's Gearbox on Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.
Okay, everybody. So on today's show, we're always out there trying to reach out to everybody in the industry that's anybody. And one of those guys that's a somebody is Rick Wright. And we've got Rick on the podcast this week, and he's out of Riverside, California, owns Wright Gearbox. And Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey, so, there's lots going on, and I've been to your place before picking up some stuff for some other people and whatnot. And when I stopped in there, you're super busy, and glad we get an opportunity to sit down and do a podcast, because I've been seeing, following your Instagram feed, you're into a lot of different stuff. I mean, you're a transaxle guy, but your blood runs deep with Volkswagens. And the way we always start the podcast is, what's your VW story and how did you get into Volkswagens?
So basically, my dad was a VW mechanic his whole life. He was actually certified Volkswagen for brakes, electrical, stuff like that, worked for dealerships and all that. He quit working for dealerships in the 80s and started a company basically back back in the 80s, we used to run a shop called Rick's Classic VW Repair, and it was here in Riverside. Basically, we shut that down, I don't know, 20, almost 30 years ago. Yeah. That shop is actually owned now by, it was Steve Timms at Performance Workshop, and his son Greg is now taking it over and stuff, but that used to be my father's shop.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we used to be there. We did Volkswagen repair for years and years. And basically we did all, just standard tune-ups, brake jobs, just any Volkswagen repair and stuff like that. A buddy of ours that used to rebuild all of our transmissions for us for the shop, Ronnie Griffin, he's actually been in all the VW parts for many years. He was a distributor for IAP, PPI, MP, stuff like that. He did all of our VW transmissions out of his garage. And one day he came to me, he's like, "Hey, I don't want to do this no more. I want to retire. And are you interested in learning?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was like, I'll do it. Right. So he started showing me, transmissions. I then started building them for our shop and stuff like that. And once we shut the shop down, I pretty much moved the VW, the transmission end of it, to my garage, and I was doing it out of my garage for quite a few years. So, and then
did you did you have experience like building engines and transmissions before, or this was just cold, straight knowledge you got from Ronnie?
So basically, Ronnie just did the transmission end of it. As far as any of the engines, the brake jobs, the general VW repair was all from my father. So,
really? So Dad kind of taught you since you were a kid. You've known Volkswagens your whole life, since you're just that's all you knew was your dad was a Volkswagen guy.
Correct. Yes. My dad, like I said, he was, certified Volkswagen, stuff like that. And, he basically taught me everything. I worked at the shop with him from when I was basically about 14 years old. Mm-hmm. I would ride my bicycle from school to his shop and work with him every night and stuff like that. And until I turned 16 and built my first VW with him and started driving. And, then I basically just kept, working with him until we ended up shutting the shop down. And then I just kept going myself.
You were out of your garage for a number of years, and it just got too crazy, just too much stuff, and you're like, I need a shop, or how'd that go down?
Yeah. I was building out of my garage, just VW transmissions for local little companies around here. A few different guys that were in the Glamis scene and stuff like that. I was building transmissions for some guys that dropped their cars off with me out of Glamis, stuff like that. And then it just got so busy that I couldn't deal with it in my garage no more. So I went and rented a little 800 square foot shop and ran that for, a number of years, and then ended up getting another shop next door to it and another shop next door to it, and just kept going bigger.
And that, so I have a friend that when I got in the Volkswagen, I was in the Volkswagen scene, and then I just kind of met this guy, Jim Barbeau, and he had a shop called Desert Racing Performance here in Vegas. And he was a transmission builder. I mean, he could do everything, motors, transmissions, all that stuff. And he had been doing it since the 70s. And what was funny is, I used to watch him build transmissions, and I'm like, you don't have any specialty tools or any stuff? He's like, no, bud, it's mostly by feel. You know what I mean? Like, he just had this way that he's building transmissions, and there are a few specialty tools here and there. But he said a lot of the transmission stuff is kind of how it feels as it goes together after, you start building them so long. There's a lot of those pieces that the way that they fit together. With building engines and transmissions, is transmissions a little bit, it's a whole different animal than building a motor, I'm assuming?
It is, because the biggest problem with transmissions is, most of these transmissions, there's not a lot of aftermarket parts as far as gears and stuff like that are made, like the engines. I mean, you can pretty much order, new cranks, new rods, new cases, new all that, where in the transmission side of it, a lot of the stuff there's not available. So, I mean, we can get aftermarket high performance gears, but as far as stock VW OEM type stuff, it's, it's kind of few and far between. It's getting harder and harder. That's why, we buy as many core transmissions and stuff like that we can to try to keep it running and try to keep it going.
Yeah. Now, when you're first building transmissions, is he teaching you to the point where, like, you've had a pretty good streak, or did you kind of have a learning curve to where, oh shoot, I forgot this or forgot that? I mean, was there...
No, there was definitely a learning curve as far as, what to look for.
And with those transmissions, like, obviously when you rebuild most of the stock transmissions, it's usually like 90% of the time that what goes wrong with the transmissions is operator error or no maintenance, or is it just, because I know I've heard that the synchros wear out from people riding with their hand on the shifter, pushing against a synchro all the time.
So see, and that's one of the things that everybody talks about and stuff like that, as far as synchros, oh, my transmission's popping out of gear, the synchro's bad. That's not the synchro. So typically with riding your hand on the shifter, what you're doing is you're pulling on the shifter and you're wearing out the shift fork or the slider that operates it to shift it into gear. And once you wear that out, it's got excess play and it starts popping out of gear or wearing out prematurely.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. All these people that say, oh, my synchro's bad. A synchro does one thing and one thing only. When you're shifting the car, the synchro is what slows the gear down to make the operating sleeve slide over into the next gear without it grinding. So the only thing a synchro does is cause it not to grind when it goes in gear. That's it.
That's it.
That's basically it. It doesn't hold it into gear. It doesn't make it pop out of gear. None of that.
So with building transmissions, so my friend John Holton, who used to own RC Trans, he's shut down RC Trans after 20 some years, just because what you were saying, it's impossible to find parts. There's a lot of pressure to get, and especially here in Vegas, right? It's just like where you're at. You get all these guys that just before dune season, they all show up in September needing their stuff for October. And they've sat in the garage all summer. And now you get this mountain of Mendiolas and all the stuff. And it's like, can't find parts, can't find gears. And it's too much stress to try to deal with, some of the stuff. And he had another opportunity to deal with this stuff with the firearms. So he kind of went that direction. But with you now, I've noticed over the past few years, it's like less and less guys are building transaxles, which means there's more and more business coming your way. But then the challenge is trying to, get these parts. Like, what are some of the hardest parts to find for rebuilding transmissions?
I mean, honestly, the hardest parts to find is just, they're making a bunch more, like over the last probably 5 years, they're producing more and more stuff to keep these things going. But it's like everything, like everybody says, it's made in China, and the quality is just not there. So, you got to pick and choose different things as far as, what to buy, what not to buy, and stuff like that. Just like when you're building a motor or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, it pretty much goes with any of this VW stuff, brake components that you buy, or wheel bearings. The wheel bearings you can buy now, the Chinese ones are, near not as good as the original, SKF or FAG bearings.
Yeah. And with respect to like internal parts and pieces, like when you're looking to buy cores, do you have a source where you get cores from? Or you have guys that track you down, or you have constant ads out looking for cores?
Both, all of it. I've got ads up on Samba. I put ads up on Instagram. I have a half a dozen guys that, they go out and they source them at junkyards and stuff like that. Or, I had a customer that drove in from Vegas last week that ended up buying out a little VW guy that did it out of his backyard that had been doing it for years. And, he brought me a pallet, pallets of cores and parts that were taken out of them and stuff like that. And, we're always looking for anything, sliders, gears, ring and pinions, cases. I mean, even good used cases are getting harder and harder to find because, they just start, deteriorating or, cracking or breaking or, just a number of different things or wearing out.
Now, so, and I've heard a lot of different stuff, obviously, and with me, I've got enough knowledge to be dangerous about some stuff. And I've heard a lot of different things here and there. And I've had a few different transaxles. I've had a Berg 5 and, a couple with the typical freeway flyers and stuff like that. With respect to transaxles, and I was noticing on your convertible builds, you had that convertible that's featured in October 2018 Hot VWs. I know that had a Berg 5-speed in it.
Yep.
Now with the Berg 5-speed, with the modifications that are done between the extension on the nose cone, the lengthened pinion
shafts,
the lengthened shaft, stuff like that. Can those be made? Because what I just recently have been hearing, like, oh yeah, those aren't good for a lot of horsepower. They're good for 150 or 200 horsepower, but nothing more than that. I mean, can those things be made fairly bulletproof? Or I mean, really, and what are we going to run on the street horsepower wise?
Exactly. I mean, I realistically, I've got guys that are running Berg 5-speeds, and I do quite a few of them. I've got guys running Berg 5-speeds anywhere from 150 to making, 325 horse out of a, nice little turbo motor. Mm-hmm. And they run great. I mean, just like anything, if you build the Berg 5-speed with the proper components and the aftermarket gears and stuff like that, they can be just as strong. I mean, there's really lengthening the shaft on the very end is not hurting it because all we're doing is lengthening it at the end where the fifth gear rides. Well, it's not like you're putting the power down in fifth gear.
Right. Fifth gear is more kind of just like the cruising gear.
Exactly. I mean, a Berg 5-speed, everybody thinks of a 5-speed too. They're like, oh, I'm going to put this really tall fifth gear in it so that I can, do 110 miles an hour. Well, the problem is with the Berg 5-speed, the way that they were really designed is for the streetcar guys that wanted a close ratio first, second, third, fourth, but be able to put it in fifth gear to still cruise on the freeway. But the fifth gear we put in them is still like a stock freeway flyer fourth gear.
Yeah. So when everybody envisions that they're going to have this super tall, like cruising speed at 100 miles an hour, it's not really the case. I know that with my trans, the 4-speed that I have in my double cab, and we're going to talk about your double cab in a minute. But I did a 388 with an 082, that's taller than a 388 with an 089. Is that correct?
That is correct. Because
I know with my transaxle in the double cab, I don't even go into fourth gear till 60, because it's at least it's 60 on my speedometer, a little bit off. Yeah. But I've also got 17-inch wheels with real tall tires in the back and stuff. So I mean, it was built to cruise. In my double cab, I think I cruise at about 73 on the GPS at about 3,000 RPM.
Yeah, that's correct. And so your double cab and my double cab are geared identical. My double cab, I've got a 388 with a 0.82 and stuff like that in it. And yes, on my GPS at 70 miles an hour, I'm exactly 3,200 RPM.
Yeah. So let's talk about your double cab for a minute, because your double cab's been kind of making a big splash on Instagram and all that stuff. And you've just had it out recently and have just blown through a bunch of shows on this thing. So talk to me about the double cab build. I mean, you've built a ton of stuff, but the double cab's getting a lot of recognition right now. Give me the whole build in this thing and the story on the double cab.
Basically, the story on my double cab is, I mean, I've been into the off-road industry for many, many years, and that's where everybody's kind of known my name, is in the Glamis and the off-road scene and stuff like that. I do a lot of sand cars and all that. A couple of years ago, I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I said, I need to start getting back into the street car scene. I said, it's just blowing up. It's getting very popular. People are actually spending money on it and stuff like that. And we decided to do a build. And I talked to one of my good buddies out in Florida, Jason Stratton, over at Stratton Motorsports. Told him, hey, you know, and he had just built a couple of years ago 2 buses that went to this show out there, which is like a concourse build show. And he basically took first place in 2 shows and just cleaned house with them. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, I said, I want to do a build. You know, what should I buy? And he's like, hey, I've got a 63 double cab sitting here that I was going to build for a guy, but he doesn't want it. He's going with a 23 window now. He's like, build that. And I'm like, okay. Nice. So he ended up, you know, sandblasting it. He took it all apart, did all the metal work. He did all the paint there. I actually sent him the front end, the transmission, wheels and tires, basically all the drivetrain. He put all that stuff in it to make it a roller. Once he was done painting it and assembling the outside, we had it shipped up here. Once it got here, we basically, you know, fine-tuned all the suspension, put the motor in it, you know, started putting all the accessories on it. Then I sent it to the interior shop, had my interior guy here do all the interior in it, got it all together and started driving it, and probably drove it for about 2 months. And I just wasn't happy with the ride and stuff like that. So we brought it back here to my shop and we ripped all the suspension back out of it. And I got a hold of a couple of different people and we ended up bagging the whole thing.
What was the original ride setup on it? Like, what was it? It wasn't low enough and it just rode rough, or what was the...
No, the biggest problem I had was the front was very stiff, especially with the 17-inch wheels with the little thin tires on them. The front was really stiff. And then the problem I had in the back with having a big motor that made big power is when you would actually get on it, the back end would just start hopping because there was no weight back there. There's, you know, because it's a truck bed. It's not like a regular bus where you got the seats in it and the full top to it and stuff like that. So it actually just rode really rough in the rear and I couldn't get it to soften up. I mean, I talked to a couple of guys about taking like the torsion bars and literally turning them down and stuff like that to try to soften it up. But I just ended up, you know, I talked to a few different people and they were like, you know what, why don't we try this? And let's, you know, I've had really good luck and let's bag the thing. So we ripped all the suspension out of it. I called Bruce up at Vintage VW and ordered a front beam that was an airbag beam. And then I got a hold of my buddy Brandon over at over down the street from me that at High Def, and he makes a rear kit that basically converts it all over to IRS and stuff like that. Yeah. And we ended up bagging the whole thing. So, and I mean, I can tell you it rides amazing now. I mean, really? It is night and day difference. I mean, it goes down the freeway at 70 miles an hour and you hit a bump and it just floats over it and stuff. It's not, you know, the back end's not jumping up on you. Right. It's night and day. It's really nice.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the thing sits crazy low. And so, you know,
that's the really nice thing about the bag is when I pull into the shows and stuff, I can let all the air out and drop the thing. Basically, it sits about 3/4 of an inch off of the ground, off the steering box.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then when I'm ready to go, I put 100 pounds of air in the bags and it sits back up. It raises it roughly about 3 inches and it rides. It's amazing.
Now with that, so you put the bag setup in there, and then the front beam you have on there is a dual bag beam that you have?
Yes, that's a dual bag beam.
And then what are you using for air management?
Actually, on that one we use. It's not an AccuAir. It was a. I forget. It was Yeah, it was something like that, but it was a good air management so that everything is dialed off of pressure. And I've got 3 different settings, so I can go low, medium, and high. And I mean, it literally sits there at the pressure and it regulates it so that if there's any, fluctuation or any of that, it compensates it and puts air or lets air out immediately.
Nice. So you're sold on the air setup now for
as far as a bus or a double cab or any of that, yes, I am. Yeah. 100%. If you want the low look and you want a good ride and stuff like that, definitely the air setup it's 100%. It's really worth it. So as far as a bug, I have yet to see a really good air setup that I like. Everybody makes a back kit, but I haven't seen anybody make a front kit that's a really good, like I tried to bag a bug years ago and it was a single bag on one side of the beam and the thing always leaned and it started twisting the bars in there. So the front always sat weird. The problem is nobody makes a dual bag kit that you don't got to cut the whole inside of your package tray and stuff to put the bags in, where on the buses, I didn't cut anything, other than in the back, I had to trim a little bit, but I really didn't cut anything out to modify it.
Now with the bag setup you have in the rear, your trans in that car is just an IRS trans. So is it swing converted to IRS?
It is. It's an IRS tranny out of a 7172 style transmission.
So is it now? There's a couple transmission cases like the Super Beetles had a solid, like one side was solid. Where it didn't have the side that comes off. Now, is there any problem with using those transaxles, or do you prefer not to use them, or are they more of a hassle to build, or because I never really,
there's not really, it just depends on what you're trying to build and stuff like that. Because I was building a big motor for this and stuff, I ended up using a Rhino case. So the Rhino cases only come with the dual side plates and stuff like that. As far as regular street cars, something that's just going to be a nice mild, 2 liter or something like that, there's nothing wrong with building the single side plate cases. No.
And the setup that you have for the rear of your car is from who?
So the bag setup that I got for the rear of my car is from a guy named Brandon Soto at High Def. He's here in Fontana, I believe it is.
High Def, and he makes them he obviously makes them for like IRS for bus rear. These
correct. Yes, he basically builds a boxed rear arm that converts it over to IRS and stuff like that. And then you have these clamps that bolt on to the torsion housing that you weld on there and stuff like that. And it actually, by going with the IRS 2, they're 1 inch narrower. So it sucked the wheels in 1 inch also.
Nice.
Because that's one of the biggest problems with the buses and all that is you lower them, and to get the wheel out of the rear back when it's lowered like that, it's really hard because it's basically, it's sitting like 1/4 of an inch off of the side of the bus.
Right. Yeah, I have on my crew cab, I've narrowed the rear torsion housings 3/4 of an inch on each side so I could fit the 8.5 Porsche wheels in the back without it getting too crowded. Now I'm looking at your build pictures on the motor. So the motor, what's the motor setup that you have in the car? Because it looks like you're running EFI in it too.
Yes. So it's a 2386. It is running the CB injection, the new Holley setup. It's got the 930 style shroud. The EFI it's pretty awesome. So, it's really nice because it doesn't spit, it doesn't sputter, it doesn't hiccup. I don't have to worry about jets. Literally, I fire it up, I warm it up, and it idles perfect and stuff like that.
So the management you're using on there it's the Holley style stuff that's been modified by CB Performance to put on Volkswagens. Is that what the setup is?
Correct.
So
yeah, correct.
It's the dual throttle bodies, and does it have a dual throttle position sensors or just a single?
It's got a single throttle position sensor and then the dual throttle bodies.
Okay. And you've had, because I've had some EFIs in the past that were a little rough, you know what I mean? Like they have, especially on the cold starts and things like that. But you like the system pretty well. And you put some miles in this bus so far?
Yeah. I've probably, I probably got around 4,000 miles on it, and it's been running perfect. I haven't had, I mean, knock on wood, I haven't had a single problem with it. Once I got the motor in the bus, I took it to the dyno. We put it on the dyno. The guy tuned it right there, stuff like that. Set all the timing, everything. And since then, I mean, it's been working great.
And what are you pushing to the wheels horsepower wise?
It is making 149 to the tire.
Yeah, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of, I mean.
Yeah, so you're figuring almost 180 at the crankshaft.
Yeah.
So, but it drives beautiful. I mean, and like and that's the funny thing. Everybody's like, I know a lot of people are scared to drive their stuff, and everybody gives me gives me shit about is I actually have a fast track on it, and I drive the thing to the beach all the time. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, we're at a point right in our lives where it's like drive them and build them, man. Don't just have these show cars that just sit and don't get driven. I mean, they're if you're building it with the technology that we have, that we're building cars today versus just 20 years ago. I mean, especially with because a lot of people are starting to do IRS conversions and switching, especially on Type 2s, making them more functional to be driven and less of a truck and more of like a nice ride and stuff like that.
100%.
So I'm interested with this setup you did. So you already built a transaxle. So if you were doing this to begin with, because I've heard about the bus, like the late model bus Berg 5 setup. Now, is that a pretty rare setup that they have out there?
So as far as Berg themselves never made an 002, like a later model bus, they never made an 002 5-speed.
Oh, really?
There was two 002 5-speeds built, and they were built by Dave Foltz. So Dave Foltz,
there's only like two of those known to be done. Really?
Yes. Yeah. He only built two, and he was going to start building them and stuff. But I think it's a matter of there just wasn't enough want and for the price and stuff like that, because a Berg 5-speed is expensive. It's all custom built. It's all, it's got to be all handmade pretty much as far as the parts and the lengthening of the shafts and all the shift rails and all that. So even our regular Type 1 5-speeds, I mean, a Berg 5-speed starts at $5,000.
Right.
So
I think I've got 6,500 in the one that the one that I had, and then well, I was $5,000 on that in 2010, and then I just picked one up because it was a great deal at $5,000. I just snatched it. It was all gone through and everything, and but I like them because like you say, they're designed to just have close ratio for the street, and then that fourth gear, because there's nothing more fun than cruising around in a close ratio car because you can rip through the gears pretty quick. But when you get on that, when it's time to drive on the freeway, it becomes a nightmare, which is the perfect solution for the Berg 5. Now, with transaxles and going back to like 5-speeds, there's no other 5-speed that people have seen that will go like, because sometimes the guys in some of the on the early stuff, they've used like 912E transaxles, or they've used like an early 911 5-speed. Does any of that, have you done any of those type of conversions or installations or any of that stuff?
I have not. I haven't done any of those conversions or any of that. I have rebuilt the Porsche 5-speeds and stuff for people that are doing it. But the biggest problem I've got with the Porsches, I mean, the cores are very expensive. To rebuild them is very expensive. Yeah. And you got to custom build all your mounts. Nobody makes anything just to bolt it in the car. Right. It's all got to be custom fabricated.
Now, what about there was a company called Subi Gears that did, they do like a reverse ring and pinion that goes in like a Subaru transaxle, making it, instead of front engine, a rear engine transaxle, because those Subarus are front wheel drive with like a front engine transaxle, yeah?
Correct.
Now, have you done any of those?
I have not done any of those. I know that those are, kind of popular, especially in the later model, like Vanagon style. Yeah, that's what the guys, because they're ditching their 4-speeds and they want something that they can, because that's the biggest problem with the Vanagons is, they do 55, 60 miles an hour, and that's about it. And, there's not a lot of options out there other than we start doing aftermarket gears and making the splits really long between them. But then the problem is you need a motor that's going to push them. You need something that's going to, that's going to actually push it and stuff like that. I mean, I have an 86 or an 87 Vanagon Synchro that I drive up at one of my, up at my mom and dad's house in Idaho. Mm-hmm. I have an 87 Synchro up there that I did a 2.5 Subi swap in it. And I actually kept the Synchro trans and just re-geared it and stuff like that. But, those Subi trannies they're pretty tough and they're pretty nice. So
now when you said the Subaru swap, did you swap motor and transmission or you just did a motor?
I just did the motor. I kept because mine was 4-wheel drive, the Synchro. I didn't want to, have to deal with the Subi trans and try doing the, all that in the front diff and all that. So I kept the factory trans, rebuilt it, put the aftermarket GT gears in it, and stuff like that. And then did the 2.5 Subi engine in it.
Now, how do you like that Subi? And that car's stock water cooled?
Yes, that car is factory water cooled, all that. That conversion was, it was the first one I'd ever done. Little bit of trial and error and stuff. But I mean, now that it's running and driving and I've got some miles on it, I mean, the thing runs great. It's so quiet. It's nice. It cruises 65 down the highway with no problem. And it's got plenty of power to get out of its way.
Yeah, no, that's, it's funny because I see a lot of I had a squareback that I was going to do a Subi conversion on only because no one really ever looks at the motors in a Type 3. And I thought it'd just be so nice to have something that's much bigger displacement and all factory internals, you know what I mean? Where you could actually just drive the thing like we're used to driving cars now in modern circumstances, especially with fuel injection and all that stuff.
Well, exactly. You got a computer to regulate all the injection, the computer to regulate temperature and turn fans on. I mean, it just makes it more enjoyable to go drive it. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Now, one of the cars that you had a 54 Baja with an LS motor, and I spent some time at the dunes. I definitely enjoy, some off-road stuff. Tell me about this Baja build that you had.
So that actually started with one of my customers had that car that was unassembled. It was all the 54 body. It was a full cage. All the suspension was there, stuff like that. And it kind of sat in his shop for, I don't know, probably 2 years. And he just never had time to work on it and stuff. And he hit me up. He's like, I told him I wanted to build one. And he's like, well, why don't you just buy mine? And I'm like, okay, well, let's make a deal. So I ended up getting it. We brought it here, basically put the car completely together as far as mocking everything up and, test fitting and putting the seats in it and all that. Once we got it all mocked up, we stripped the car down to the bare chassis. We sent the car over to the powder coater and had the whole chassis and body sandblasted because the body was actually welded to the chassis. So there wasn't no separation.
Wow. Yeah.
So we actually had it sandblasted inside, outside, underneath, and then we powder coated the whole thing satin black, inside, outside, all of it.
Yeah. That thing was sick. I love the look of it, but it's a full tube chassis. I mean, that car was built like basically a race car with a bug shell on it.
Correct. It was 100% full tube chassis, cut, lengthened, modified. I mean, yeah, other than it had the center of the pan with the VIN number in it,
right.
The rest of it was all custom.
And then that thing, that was LS powered. Was it turboed or NA?
No, it was an NA. It had a 400-inch LS motor in it that was making roughly right at about 600 horsepower at the crank.
Wow, an NA motor making 600 horse?
Yep. It had big heads on it, strokered. It was an LS1 stroked out to 400-inch. It had, a little bit of high compression. It was 11-to-1, stuff like that. The motor actually came out of one of my customer sand cars that, he wanted a turbo motor. So I ended up buying the motor out of his sand car. And I was like, hey, this would be perfect for my Baja Bug. So we shoved it in there.
And now, what the transaction you built in that thing, was that a Mendiola box in there?
Yes, it had a Mendiola 2D in it. Yep.
Now, do you do much Mendiolas for street cars for guys in the street, or not really?
Not really. No. There's very few. I mean, I probably have about a half a dozen Baja Bugs that are running Mendiola 2Ds. But I mean, other than that, no. Most all my Mendiolas are all Sandcar, stuff like that.
And the Mendiolas, I mean, other than the infamous reverse gear, right? Like the Mendiolas are pretty heavy duty, and that's why they use them mostly for V8 powered cars.
Correct. And I mean, so the whole infamous reverse gear is the funniest part, because the reverse gear in a Mendiola 2D is the factory VW reverse gear that would be in an 091 bus box.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, I mean, it's a, and that's the problem. There is no room inside there to put a bigger reverse gear, just the way that it's made, because there's just no room. But that reverse gear is the same one that's in all the 002 transmissions, all the 091s in these sand cars and stuff like that. The biggest problem why everybody, says it breaks is because they put such a big motor behind it. Right. Thinking that they can get stuck and throw it in reverse and just step on it. And it's like, you can't. So,
right. So the key with, if you've got an LS powered car, is if you're stuck, don't try to get out in reverse, because you're just going to.
No, do not.
You're going to put 700 horsepower to reverse gear. And it's a game over.
Exactly. I tell all my customers, I said, reverse is for two things: backing it off the trailer and backing it out of camp. Other than that, don't use it. Right. If you get stuck, have your buddy hook a tow strap and yank the front end around.
Yeah. No, I've had definitely, one of my sand cars I had a Subi powered sand car with, it was I want to say a transform gearbox. There was one transaxle that they made that was kind of in the middle between a Mendy and a stock VW transmission, and
the old Mega Sand.
That's what it was. It was a Mega Sand.
Yes. Yep. That was a Transform, and PBS were building those back in the day. PBS was building a lot of parts for them, and then Transform was doing all the assembly and stuff like that. That's back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. What was the name of that again? It was a
Mega Sand.
Mega Sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's been a couple different companies out there doing stuff, and then there's also I remember seeing the ads back in the day. There was a guy. It was Mickey's 5 Speeds, and then there was another company in the Pacific Northwest that was doing 5 Speeds as well.
True Shift.
Yeah, and now
there was a company out there called True Shift, TRU Shift, and they were building 5-speed kits, but. Yeah, they were it was one of those things. So instead of like lengthening the shafts, they had this piece that screwed on the end that, basically lengthened the shaft by screwing this piece on the end. And then you'd put the fifth gear, and those pieces would always come off, or they'd break the end of the threads off and stuff like that. So definitely wasn't a good setup.
So with your experience now, you do transmissions of all types. You'll do like a stock split case tranny all the way to a Mendy or to like an Albins or whatever, everything in between.
Yep. Yeah. We do split case. I mean, the split case ones are, kind of far and few between, because unless you're doing a full resto and you want it 100% original and stuff, nobody likes to do the split case or drive them. Right. But yeah, we do split cases all the way to Mendiolas, Albins. I've done Fortons, pretty much anything that's kind of the VW and off-road related, we do it.
So is it with the transaxles, has it become like once there's a saying, like, if you can drive a Volkswagen Beetle, you can drive any manual car, because Volkswagens are so particular in how you got to kind of, especially the ones like when they're stock, they're like sewing machines, right? But once somebody's put their hands on it, between the shifter being all funky and all that stuff, if you can master driving a Volkswagen, you can drive anything. Is it the same with, like, if you can build a VW transaxle, everything else is a little bit easier, a little bit different?
So they say, yes. So they say that the Volkswagen transmission is one of the hardest transmissions to build, because every fork in it and stuff like that is fully adjustable. So you have to put it in a jig or a fixture to adjust all the forks and set it and stuff like that, where I've done Hondas and stuff like that, or Toyotas, and basically you just drop everything in and the forks are welded and they're not adjustable. And if the part's worn, you put a new part in and put it back together. Where in a Volkswagen, it's not like that. You literally have to sit there and play with it and adjust every single gear to where it's going into the proper, going in the proper amount.
Yeah. So it's over-engineered from the German standpoint, to where as the evolution of transmissions started going on with Hondas and stuff like that, from the factory, they're just set to just press them together and you're done.
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
And
no,
so,
I mean, the German technology was, it was pretty spectacular back then. As far as, let's be honest. I mean, all these Volkswagens that are in the, still that we go to these shows and stuff like that from back in the 40s and the 50s. I mean, how many old Chevys and cars and stuff like that? I mean, you see a lot more Volkswagens than you do those.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we're using transmissions that the technology was perfected right in the 50s and 60s. So it's like we're using that technology and trying to have the transmissions keep up with the horsepower and the motors. Did you do many automatics?
No, I don't do any automatic stuff.
Really?
I've had people ask me, and I've never gotten into the automatic stuff just because the parts are always hard to find. And honestly, I've been so busy doing what I do, and I've kind of wanted to keep it, a niche in it, and never really ventured off into it.
So there's never been much of a need to do an automatic, or now the auto sticks?
Honestly, I mean, as far as automatics and auto sticks, I maybe get 2 to 3 calls a year. Really? And that's about it. So it's never been one of those things where, and most all your guys that have the auto sticks, they convert them over to 4-speeds and, put the regular pedals in it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, so you've had some pretty intense sand vehicles too in your lineup of vehicles that you've owned. So do you have a current sand car now?
Right now I do not have a sand car. I have my 1974 VW thing that has got a sequential 5-speed and a LS3 in it that we take out to the desert and sand dunes.
And does that have the A-arm front end on it?
Yes, it does. It's the whole car, as far as the chassis and arms and all that, was built by John over at Playtech down here in Orange County. And then it has a Mendiola sequential 5-speed. It has an LS3 naturally aspirated crate motor, and it's got a license plate on it. And I drive it on the street all the time. And
so that car, that with the A-arm front suspension, is that like night and day when you're off-roading in a Volkswagen?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's no comparison. I mean, that thing, last time I took it out to the desert, I mean, we were going down Sand Highway at 80 miles an hour and the car doesn't even move.
In a VW thing.
Yeah.
See, that's the coolest thing though, is to be out there in a thing. 'Cause I mean, part of me would love to have a VW thing off-road, like an off-road car, but something built, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something that's got a monster setup in. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the V8. I think it'd be cool if you did like a Subi powered one. And that's a tough thing you say, right? Power to weight ratio, but you're talking 300 to 600 horsepower for 200 pounds. Like it's not even, you kind of stop talking about power to weight ratio when you're just like, well, the LS is like, they're both water cooled. One's got a few more cylinders, but you slap that LS in there and it's a complete and total game changer, Well, the nice thing about the LS is that they're so readily available and so honestly inexpensive anymore. That's why most all of your old hot rods and stuff like that have all gone to the LS trannies and LS motors. I mean, right now, other than Volkswagen, right now I'm building a 1971 C10 short bed. Mm-hmm. And it's got a full custom chassis under it. It's fully bagged. It lays on literally the frame lays on the ground, and it's got a brand new LS3 and a brand new GM 6-speed in it. And what's that cost for a brand new LS3 and a GM 6-speed? Like price wise compared to,
basically motor and transmission was about $12,000 for the whole package.
which is like what a really good Volkswagen motor alone would cost. Like a
Yeah.
built,
Well, I mean, yeah, depending on what you want and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the motor that's in my double cab is, that's an $18,000 motor with all the fuel injection and stuff on it.
oh yeah. And did you build that motor, that 2386?
Yeah. Yep.
So you built that motor, and what camshaft are you running in that? I didn't know.
So that's got an Engel FK46 in it.
So
with a 1.4 rocker.
So it's a 46. So it's a mid-level torque cam. It's a driving cam in that.
It's kind of your upper end driving cam, but yes, it's still drivable. It still makes good power, stuff like that.
So it's not like an FK series where that comes on at like
it's a little, it's kind of a one step down from an FK series. It's a little bit down from an FK 40 from a FK 87.
Yeah. So it's power band comes on that camshaft at what RPM?
Power band's typically coming on about $3,000 and it runs out at about 6,500.
Oh yeah. No, that's wild. And so you're having great luck with the EFI. And, that's the craziest part. You're talking about your S10 or your C10, I'm sorry. And the C10 drivetrain is all brand new, all built to today's technology, and about a VW, a good built VW EFI motor built to run and last. It's going to run you about around what that cost you almost.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's a lot of money that's going into these Volkswagen engines and stuff like that. And, the parts are expensive for them. I mean, it's not like back in the old days where, you could build a small little 2-liter for $2,500. I mean, engine blocks now are, a brand new aluminum block is $1,200 plus. You get a good crank and flywheel setup and stuff like that. I mean, rotating assembly, you can have $1,000 into it easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, it keeps getting up and up. And I mean, heads, a good set of, big valve ported heads, all hand ported stuff like that. I mean, you can sink $2,000 into a set of heads.
What are you running for heads on your double cab?
It has got a set of Brother VW. They're big D ports, with a 44-37.5 valve, dual spring, titanium retainers.
And what made you pick those heads versus like a set of like wedge ports or something like that?
Honestly, I prefer, the CB heads, the wedge ports and stuff are a great head, but for what I was doing, I kind of preferred the hand ported head that, I wanted them done by hand.
And these are stock VW castings?
They're not stock VW castings. They're a 501 casting. So like an AA style casting.
Okay. Yeah. So, and you, because you build motors. Do you build motors through Wright Gearbox? You just build your own motors?
No, we build a lot of motors here. So we actually, I think I have 6 engines going right now. I've got a couple of 2180 thick walls here. I just got done doing a 2110. I've got a Type 4 sitting here that's a 2600 cc, and then I've also got another Type 4 that's a 3000 cc that I'm building. Yeah,
now you're talking my language. I love Type 4s, man. I just love the torque, just the torque. It's like big block V8 torque versus small block Chevy. You know what I mean? Like they're not the fastest things you're going to get on the road, but you're not going to get tired of torque. You know what I mean? Like especially like freeway driving, pulling hills, stuff like that. You never really get tired of that. Where sometimes you get kind of used to that quick wrapping power from a Volkswagen, like the Type 1, because most of them are built for top end power. They've got a lot of high RPM cams in there, and you got to kind of wring their neck to get all the juice out of it. But I like Type 4s. So
No, the Type 4 is a great motor. I mean, we've done quite a few of them. I mean, I posted videos, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. I took my 2600cc Type 4 motor over to the dyno, and I've got videos up on my Instagram of it, but it made 190 horsepower, I think.
yeah.
And, I mean, it's a good running motor. So
And what RPM is that? It's topping out at 5,500.
I think it was 5,600 is where it shut off.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and it's for something that moves, that you're going to be throwing something down the road, man. I think I'm a big proponent of the Type 4, and I think with your experience getting bearings and stuff like that for the Type 4s, do you have better quality stuff that's available for the Type 4 versus Type 1, or is it the same challenge?
Honestly, it's the same stuff. You got to pick and choose what you get and stuff like that. The Type 4 stuff is, the Type 4 stuff is the same. It's few and far between. And, luckily I've had good luck as far as buying, old VW shops out and stuff, that I buy a lot of, old Type 4 bearings. I had a whole box of Type 4 bearings, and I've just been picking through them and stuff like that. Old original Mollies and metal EVs and stuff.
And you're still, and there's still the inconsistency even in the old school good quality stuff.
Not really. The old school good quality bearings and stuff, they were pretty consistent and pretty durable. The new stuff that's out there, I mean, everybody's talked about the silver lines and stuff like that, and the silver line bearings are very inconsistent. So
interesting. That's that's probably one of the toughest things. It's got our hobby, right, is the poor quality of aftermarket parts that we have available to us. Now, with your shop over there at Wright Gearbox, how many guys you got working over there now?
So I have 2 guys that work for me. I build all of the off-road and performance transmissions. Mm-hmm. I build all of the engines myself. I don't have anybody else building the engines. And then I have one guy that builds all my stockers, as far as stock VW transmissions and stuff like that. And then I got a guy in the back tearing down, washing, sandblasting, and stuff like that. And then my wife does all the bookkeeping and taxes and keeps the front office going.
Oh, wow. So other than a couple guys helping you prep some stuff and doing some run of the mill stuff, you're almost like a one man, like a one man deal.
Yep. I'm a very hands-on guy as far as I still build transmissions and engines every single day.
Now, is it tough to get people in there to train them to be good quality builders, or is it one of those things where you're training your replacement, or like, are you training your future competition, or what?
Yeah, well, that is one of the biggest problems. I mean, you do train your future competition. I mean, I've had guys that work here and they've gone out and started their own companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is one of the, that's one of the things is like you do train them and they do want to go do their own thing. And I mean, it's like everybody talks about, nowadays it's hard to get anybody that wants to show up and actually work and stuff like that. Nobody wants to learn anymore. They just want to sit in front of a computer.
Yeah, they just want to get the check. They want the big money check. They don't want to pay their dues and work their way up to get to get where
and it's going to be really sad here, in 10 years when all the people like me or all these VW guys or old car builders and stuff like that. I mean, we're getting older and we're not going to be able to do it much longer, and nobody wants to replace us.
Right.
As far as, I mean, there's no more auto shop in school anymore. There's no more, hands-on woodworking and, stuff like that in school to train these kids or high school people to come out and actually do it.
Now, with building transaxles, that's not really something that you could do, like where, Gene Berg would be like, the best person to build your motor is you, because you're going to put the time, effort, and care into it. A guy really at home can't kind of rebuild his own transaxle, can he?
He can, but the problem is he's going to have to buy so many specialty tools and jigs or fixtures and stuff to do it, that it's like, if you're only going to build yours and this is a one-time deal, you're going to spend more money than if you just bought it from me and you don't get a warranty.
Right.
And I've tried to I've had to tell people that time and time again. I'm like, because a guy will call me and he'll want to buy parts, and I'm like, okay, I'll sell you the parts, but you got to understand, this isn't just like you slap the parts in and put it back together.
Right.
Well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, you got to have a fixture to put it in to set the fork. You got to have this special socket to take the pinion nut off. You got to have, all this special tooling to do it, and presses. And he's like, oh, well, I thought I just, open it up and replace that gear. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, there's so much to this, and the craziest part is that if you probably had two guys working for you that you could count on them building transactions as good as you could probably still not catch up with work.
Pretty much. Yeah. We've typically got a backlog and stuff like that. The one good thing that I do is when my guys are a little bit slow or whatever, I like to have them build transmissions and just put them on the shelf for stock. And I probably have 10 to 12 transmissions of a variety of different things: swing axles, IRS, freeway flyers, pro streets, all sitting on the shelf, built, done, ready to go. So if a customer calls and they're in a hurry, I can ship one out tomorrow.
Oh, nice. So you have a rolling stock that you keep in stock with most of your average needed transaxles, and mostly in the stock configuration.
Yes, it's stock configurations or freeway flyers and stuff like that. Correct.
So what's your freeway flyer? You typically, unless somebody's running a big turbo motor or something with a lot of power, they're not going to do a 388 with an 082.
No, correct.
388 with 089, which is that the stock Super Beetle setup?
So everybody see, and that's one of the common
Let's
things.
get rid of all the myths, right?
Exactly. That's one of the common problems is everybody thinks, a Super Beetle 388, an AT core, they call it, a single side plate, that's got a 388, so it's a freeway flyer. Well, no, when VW put the 388 ring and pinion in a transmission, they lowered fourth gear down to a 0.93.
Oh, really?
Yes. So Volkswagen never made a freeway flyer. Now, the 388 ring and pinion is the strongest ring and pinion as far as a factory ring and pinion and stuff like that to put in a car. That's why most all your drag racers want them, stuff like that. But yes, for us to build a freeway flyer, we can do it two ways. We can build it with a 388 and a 0.89, which is what I recommend for most any of your guys that are doing freeway driving. They want to be able to cruise it real nice and stuff like that. Maybe they got a small 2-liter, something like that. Or you can build it with a 412 and a 0.82, which your fourth gear still works out exactly the same as a 388.89 and a 412.82. But with the 412.82, you have a lower first, second, third if you want to have a hot street car to go out there and rip around and maybe drag race or something like that.
So I can see it now. You get people that call you and go, I got to have a 388 because I got a 2110 44s and I drive it a lot, but I want to cruise the freeway. And you're like, well, actually you want a 412 with an 082 because it's the same end result, but you're going to feel a lot more punch on the bottom end versus it feeling a little bit like, because if you have the two cars at the same setup, right? One's running a 388, one's running a 412 ring and pinion, same motor, same tranny, that the guy with the 412 is going to eat the guy up on light to light running all day because
from the takeoff. Yes. The guy with the 412 is going to hole shot him. No doubt about it.
And on the freeway, they're going to have the identical RPM if they get the same wheel size.
But on the freeway, they work out to be exactly the same. And that's why I talk to my customers and I feel them out of what they want to do. If some guy calls me and he's, 60 years old and he's got a small little 2-liter and he wants it for him and his wife to drive to the beach, then I'm going to tell him to put a 388 in it. If I got some 21-year-old or 22-year-old kid that has a 2332 with 48 IDAs and he wants to go race his buddy's Honda, well, then put a 412 in it.
Yeah, because that's what's funny is when you drive a stock Beetle in stock trim, stock motor, when you drive a 1200 or a 1600, the 1600 has a little more power, but they feel like it's all matched. The RPM, wheel speed, all that stuff to where that little 40 horse, it pulls through the gears pretty quick. And it's, they did this combination of matching things to where, although you only had 40 horsepower, you could drive with the contemporary traffic of that time. So
100%.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you kind of get in that battle with people a lot where they're like, I need a 388. Like my buddy told me a 388 is going to be my freeway flyer. Got to have the 388 with the 089. And
Yep.
so the 89, the 82, and the 93. So as Volkswagen evolved, was that 89 in the 437 ring opinion? Like, how does that chronologically match up?
So basically, the .89 was in every transmission from 1961 until 1971, 72. So all the fourth gears, it was 437 with an 8.9, and it was 412 with an 8.9.
Okay.
Any of your swing axles pre 1967 had a 437 with an 8.9 because they had 40 horsers in them,
Right.
and they had low horsepower. Where in 67 they started doing the 1500, and then they started going to the 412 with the .89 and raised up all the gears a little bit. And then obviously in 73 is when they went in with the 388 and the .93. Now, as far as a .82, .82 never came in anything except a bus.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So the
.82s are out of buses only. So that's why it's very hard to get them, is because they only came in VW buses, and we basically tear down these cores and we steal the fourth gears out of them and stuff like that. Now, they do make an aftermarket Chinese .82, and we used to use a lot of them, but we had so many complaints because they were noisy and they just didn't mesh good and, stuff like that, to where we basically told everybody, as far as us, we either do it with a 388 and an 8.9 because it's all factory, or we're doing it with a 412 and a .82, but the .82 has to be a German gear out of a bus, because anything else makes noise.
Now, the .82s were the fourth gear and all the RGB transaxles, the big nut, or which ones?
So big nuts, small nuts, and bay windows, because the bay window had a 538 ring and pinion with a .82.
Good grief, a 538.
Yes.
And
they were very low ring and pinion because you had this big brick of a car that was, not aerodynamic in any means, with the same motor that was going in the bugs, and you had to push it down the highway.
That's what I love about doing the podcast. We do this long form conversation, because I have never heard that .82. And I think a lot of people, light bulb just went off, and now we just made RGB transaxles worth more money that people are trying to hunt them down to get that fourth gear. Because, I could not be happier with my I have my Bull Run bus, which I had since the early days, and I have the 388, 080, 089 in that. And then when John was building my transaxle for my crew cab, I said, I want this crew cab cruising at 70 miles an hour, like cruising. And he said, then you're going to want to do an 082 fourth. And I can't imagine driving that double cab with anything smaller. I've got a 2.6 liter Type 4 in there, and I couldn't see. I drove it with my 2270 Type 4, but because it's a Type 4 with the torque, the thing is, when I drive my Bull Run bus on the freeway, the RPM is probably 500-600 RPM higher, if not more. And and with that 082, man, it's just cruising at 70. You know what I mean? And when you do the 911 shrouds and different stuff like that, you don't need to run it at 4,000 RPM. You can actually go a little lower RPM, because that's one of the things I talk about that I remind people a lot of, right? When all the cars with doghouse shrouds, they all had vented deck lids. All of them had the 10 vents on the deck lid because they went with more cooling inside the engine compartment. And the Volkswagen Beetle RPM speed for that motor and fan to cool properly, you're going to be somewhere in the 35 to 3,600 RPM, I think, factory. You know what I mean? That's where you're going to be stock. And so what happens, we put these tall transaxles in there, you're spinning the motor slower, and you may actually, and you're not getting the ventilation sometimes that you need to pull that for the doghouse shroud. So it's interesting.
100%. You're correct. I mean, a lot of these people, I get customers all the time that they're like, oh, I want mine to be at 2,500. I was like, you can't do that. You're going to overheat the motor.
Right.
That's not feasible. I tell everybody the optimal cooling is between 2,800 and 3,200. If you can keep it in there, that's where you want it to run. And that's where it's going to spin the fan, cool the motor. You're not pushing it really hard and stuff like that. 3,200 is a great RPM to be running it. so that's what we try to gear these things for.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's awesome, man. There's a lot of information that people don't. I think maybe transaxles are probably one of the most overlooked thing. Everybody just thinks there's just this cookie cutter transaxle. It's going to work for them, and they don't know. And that's maybe what makes Volkswagen so freaking difficult, right? Just like engines, you have 20 different engine sizes you can get, literally, and then with the transaxles, there's we've got your 3 basic ring and pinions plus all your different fourth gears, in addition to your gear stack, in addition to the length of the axles on the side. So the combination for each car is so different, from like what wheels you're running to what type of driving you're going to be doing and all that, to where when you're back to your C10, you just throw that automatic in there, and you're done with it, But there's a lot of people that maybe don't put the time, effort, and thought into their transmission or their transaxle, because and the bigger problem is, like, once you put that transaxle in there, like to swap that out, it's not just drop the tranny, it's a whole deal. The motor's got to come out, everything's got to come out, start to finish, so.
Yeah, especially in like a swing axle car, because, to pull that out, you're, pulling that out. Now you got to undo the swing axles. You got to disassemble all that again and put it. It's a lot of work. So
now, with your own, based on your experience, your knowledge and all that stuff, my brother just switched his bus to IRS, his panel bus. And he's like, I'm never going back to swing again, because I hate the wheel seals. I hate all that drama that you get with it. Are you prefer an IRS kind of guy?
You know what? It all depends on the application. I mean, in my bus, because of the air ride and stuff like that, I wanted the wheel to be straight up and down all the time, and and still get a really nice ride. But I mean, like right now I'm building for my wife. She's actually doing her own build right now. We're doing a 58 convertible for her.
Oh, nice.
And that'll stay swing axle. And I think I'm putting the Berg 5-speed in it for her and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah. And what motor's the plan for that thing?
So that's what we're still trying to figure out. I mean, she wants something that's going to have good power, but still cruise nice. And
Type 4.
I kind of want something that's going to make a lot of horsepower. So I'm actually thinking I'm putting a 2275 fuel injected turbo motor in it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It should push right around 3 1/4. So,
and what turbo setup do you like to run?
So typically the ones I've been running are the CVs. I get their turbo setup. I get their throttle body setup, their fuel injection, the Holley injection, and all that, all modified by them. Typically I'll buy the exhaust system from A1 Tiger. Tiger over at A1. I'll buy his exhaust system because I like the stainless steel exhaust. I like the V-band clamps and all that he puts on it. But I mean, yeah, it's a good setup. I've actually got a couple of them on my Instagram that I built, and one that was on the dyno and stuff like that I think I built a 7894 and it made like 289 at 5,500.
Wow. That's crazy.
That went in a street car. I mean, it's, 7 pounds of boost. So it still runs just pump gas, super unleaded, stuff like that. But on my wife's car, I think I'm going to put a bigger turbo, do a little bit more to it, bigger head, stuff like that, more aggressive cam. And, I'd actually like to see the thing pushing about 3 1/4.
Jeez.
So
is it a hardtop Ghia or convertible?
No, it's not a Ghia. It's a convertible Bug. It's a 1958 convertible Bug.
Oh, really? Convertible Beetle.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, literally she came in here a couple of weeks ago and stripped it down herself. And we are actually sending it to metalwork this week to get all the metalwork done. Once it comes back from metalwork, we're going to pull the body off and start doing the pan and, get the beam for it and wheels and tires and all that.
Oh, that's rad, man. Well, and I'm glad to see you kind of getting back in the street scene a little bit, because I mean, the dunes are fun, but the dunes are usually only on the weekends and only on, it can just to get out there is a whole trek, right? So being able to have a car, something you can hop in that you built, and you can take to some of the shows and stuff. Cause I know you've been loving it at the shows, cause you'll be getting all kinds of attention, a lot of best of shows, and a lot of, my buddy Micah G did a pretty sick video with your double cab. And he did a great video with that thing. He said that's one of the I think he said it's the highest watched video that he's ever done. Yeah, No, it's I mean it's a freaking sharp looking double cab, man, and it's you know, it's cool. It's cool that you're not just a business owner, operator, a guy who does the transaxles, but you're also into the scene. Because you know what happens a lot of times to people's, they do this for work and it goes from being a hobby to it's their job, and they don't want anything to do with it on the weekends or any of that stuff. And it's nice to see you out there enjoying it. You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do. So, and I mean, you know, right now, like I said, we're building the 58 convertible. We're gonna debut that next year. I believe at the MP Open House. We're gonna reveal that one and stuff. And VW Trends is actually doing a bunch of write-ups in their magazine on it. She's got, I think, 4 issues that she's doing of the complete build. They're following her on it and stuff. And then myself, I'm actually in the process of building a 1958 23 window.
Oh, super cool, man. Super cool.
So, yep, hopefully that'll be done in about a year and a half, and we'll start bringing that one out to the show.
Oh, very cool. Well, man, I'm super glad we got to be able to get you on the podcast and kind of and chat about all the stuff and get some more insight with transaxles and stuff. And now, anybody wants to get a hold of you or any of that stuff, what's your Instagram handle and best way to contact you?
So as far as they can call me here at the shop, Riverside, California. Phone number here is 951-372-0404, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, and my Instagram is Wright, and that's WRIGHT, and then _ Gearbox.
Nice. Well, yeah, man, I'm super glad you came on the podcast. We've, you know, I still got more. I think we might need to do one about off-road stuff specifically one time. Come back and just circle back on some of this off-road stuff, because I love the off-road world as a whole. It's a whole different gamut of stuff to talk about, whether it's the arm front suspension, all the Heim joints, all that kind of stuff. That's a completely different world than what we do, but it all started with Volkswagens out there in the dirt. You know what I mean? And it just went to more power meant we need better suspension to get through all this stuff faster, you know? So
yeah. I mean, it started back look at the, late 60s, early 70s, Myers-Manx and, the Baja Bug and all that. I mean, that's, that stuff all started it back in the day.
No, that's fantastic, man. Well, I'll tell you, if for sure next time I'm down in your neck of the woods, I'll definitely stop by and I would maybe do a quick little shop tour and some stuff like that. But I definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast. Anything we didn't touch bases on you think that we should have talked about?
No, I think it went for a great first podcast. I think it went really well.
Listen, man, I love it. There's a ton of knowledge and a lot of information that we've brought to some of those people out there, and hopefully they can make better decisions when trying to pick their transaxles for their cars, trying to match up the right stuff and all that. I just think maybe somebody needs to put a wheel gear calculator up online so that they can figure out, because a lot of times we'll be building cars starting with the wheels.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's one of the biggest thing is you got to start with the wheel and tire combination and then start building the car from there. And as far as a wheel calculator, there is one. If you go on Weddell Industry, if you go on their website, they have a tire, to gear ratio calculator and stuff, and you can plug all that in and see it for yourself.
Yeah, no, it's great knowledge for people to have, to be able to. Because there's nothing worse than you finish building your car and you're like, I freaking hate the gearing. I have that in my chop top bug. It's like, I can't stand the gearing in it because it's got a stock fourth gear with like a 437. I know it's got to have that in there. And it's like 60 miles an hour is like 4,000, 3,500 RPM. And it's just making me batty, man. So, I'm waiting for my 5-speed to get here and then get that dude upgraded. But man, hey, look, I see the double cabs for sale. So if you still got it in October, I would love to see it out at one crazy weekend, man. We'd love to have you out here and definitely get to show that thing off.
We will definitely be out there with one of our cars. Either I'm bringing my VW thing, my Myers-Manx, and if I still have the double cab, I'll bring the double cab. But we're already signed up for your show out there and doing the poker run and all that. So we signed up last night. We're good to go.
It's a blast, man. Listen, I guarantee you're going to have the best Volkswagen weekend you've had in a long, long time. So. Well, cool, man. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. And
not a problem. Thank you very much.
I think we'll do this again.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
Perfect. Well, if you like that podcast, and I'm sure you did, make sure you share this podcast with your friends. And don't forget to go register today for One Crazy Weekend happening October 2nd through the 4th. Greatest VW event you will ever experience. So come from near, come from far, fly in if you have to. We've got dozens of people coming from overseas. It's going to be a spectacular event. And don't forget, there is a $1,000 cash prize for best of show. So if you think you got what it takes, let your friends know. Let them all know if they got the baddest ride. Bring it out to One Crazy Weekend. $1,000 for best of show and a custom trophy built by Type 1 Restoration. So, guys, appreciate you guys for listening. Make sure you share the podcast and support the podcast. Go to letstalkdubs.com, pick out some merch, and support your boy. So, until next week, guys, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.